Hey guys, welcome back to Etheria Restart. In today's video, I'm going to do a gear guide for the game. We're going to cover the three main things to do with gearing, which is your matrix effects, which is the ones you can see on the right-hand side over here. These are kind of like your set bonuses. Then the modules themselves, which is what you see on screen here, which is the gearing type system. And then the shells, which are kind of like weapons, but you don't summon for them. You farm them in this game. So we're going to cover those three main aspects. And hopefully, after you watch this video, you can have a pretty clear understanding of how it works. It's a bit complex compared to other games, but let's jump into it, kicking it off with the matrix effects. Now, you can see over here on the right-hand side, these are the matrix effects, and depending on which matrix set you're looking for, you can see here I've gone for the Swift Rush. Now, if I only had 4 pieces of Swift Rush, I would get 8% speed. If I had 8 pieces, I get 20%. If I have 12 pieces, as I have, I do get 35% speed. And then Bramble, if I only had 4, I'd get 10% defense, but because I've got 8, I get that 10% defense, and I get, upon hit, I have a 25% chance to counter attack with basic attack. So you can see how we're going to get some different effects. Now, if you want to check all the available effects, you can go to the archive over here and matrix effects, and you can see all of them down here. Now, what you'll notice with these matrix effects, they have differing amounts of pieces that you need to get different effects. Once again, I showed you the Swift Rush, that can go up to 12. Then we have all these other ones with 8. Normally, the ones with 8-piece effects will have an additional effect when you get to 8. And then we have other ones that only have 6 and 12, for instance, Time Weave. So if you got 6 of Time Weave, you would get accuracy, but if you got up to 12, you got a 35% chance of reducing your cooldowns by 1 turn at the start of every turn. So those are the main sets that we have. Now, we also have this unique one you can see here with Swift Raid, how it gives me speed and attack, and it's only got one module that it can drop on. Now, these are an end game set, and once you get to the end game, most characters are going to want to have one of these unique sets, but they can only equip one of these unique sets. So you got like Swift Raid, if I could speak, Swift Smite, you got the Coloss Guard, you got Fury Edge, and you've also got the Evil Guard. So those are the ones that you've got for those, but we'll talk a bit more about those when we look into the modules themselves, but that is the way the set effects work. Now, if we go back into my character and take a look at the way we've got the modules laid out. Now, each module can get anywhere from 1 to 3 pieces of a matrix effect. So you can see this one has 3, this one over here only has 2. Now, if we go to the shell can have up to 3 matrix slots. This last one is reserved for one of those unique ones that I mentioned, and you can only get these on end game shells, so keep that in mind. But these ones can have anywhere from 1 to 3 pieces of 2 different ones in these first 2 slots as well. So, for instance, this one has 3 Swift Rush and 3 Bramble, which is really nice. Where if we go to this one, you can see it's only got 2 Swift Rush and 2 Bramble. So ideally, eventually, you're going to want 3s on everything. Now, when we look to end game building of your set effects, you can see we've got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and then another 3, 6, 9. So we've got 27 available sort of set pieces that we can make our set bonuses out of for our matrices, which is going to lead to a lot of characters that will end up running at maximum a 12-piece effect, an 8-piece effect, and a 6-piece effect, because that is going to add up to your 26. Obviously, you've got 1 spare in that as well that you're not going to do too much with. But once again, a 12-8-6 split will be something you see commonly. I am experimenting with 12-12 splits as well, and there's a different ways you can play it, but often you will see 12-8-6 as a general build recommendation for characters. Just note that is in the end game, because you can't build those in the early game until you get to end game farming. So that is pretty much everything to do with the matrix effects. Once again, it's a combination of what you get on your shell with what you get on your modules to go ahead and get these bonuses that can benefit your character. Now let's talk about the modules themselves. So this is your classic gearing system, if you will. Now, when we look at these, we already know about the matrix effects on them, so I'm not going to retouch on that. But now we're going to talk about what these actually have baked into them. So we have 6 different slots. Now, the 3 left-hand side slots have a fixed main stat. So you can see up the top here, we get attack. When you upgrade it, it is going to upgrade that stat. So if I go to this one here, just for instance, to show you, as I upgrade it, you can see we're going to increase that main stat at the top. And once we get to level 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, it's going to, if we don't have a full roster of substats here, you can see we've got 3 substats. When I get to level 3, it's going to unlock another substat. Then every 3 levels, it's going to put another roll into another substat. And that's the way this one works. Some other games will just roll straight into the stats that you have first, and then at the end unlock a new substat. This game unlocks all the available substats first before it starts rolling into any existing ones. So just note that. In general, it's got to be a really damn good piece to go to level 15. And normally I don't recommend going to 15 on anything below the mythic grade. Sometimes you would do it on an outstanding grade, but that's a unique situation. And you know, especially with like the purple pieces, like the really low tier pieces, you don't want to be building them up too high, because unfortunately with the modules, when you sell them, you only get a refund of 40% of what you put into them. Now with the shells, it averages out to be around 70 to 75, depending on how many ascensions you do, because I think their baseline is refunding you 75% on these guys, but they don't include the ones that you feed for ascension. So as you put ascensions into it, it dilutes that value down to about 70%. So shells refund decently, modules refund horribly. So you got to be careful with these shells. Once again, that is unless they change anything, and I will update you guys. So that is the way they work. So this left-hand side, the headpiece is always going to be the attack main stat. This one, which is the transistor, your transistor is going to be always HP, and then your wrist wheel. I've never read the names of what these things are actually called. I just always used to call it the capacitor, the mask, and the ring. But the ring is always going to have defense. So that is what they are always going to have as your main stat. So these ones, the main thing you're looking at is getting good substats that you want for your character. You know, often that's going to be speed. If you're HP, scaling HP. If you're a damage dealer, you're going to want the crit rate, crit damage, and so on and so forth. Now on the right-hand side, these pieces can have a lot of different main stats. They can have any of these ones as their main stat. HP bonus, attack bonus, which is attack percent, HP percent, defense percent, crit rate, crit damage, effect accuracy, effect resistance, and then the flat stat versions of HP, attack, and defense. So you can get any one of those on these ones. And this is a little bit different to other games where, say, you know, this top right slot would have to be one piece, the middle right slot would have to be one piece, and the bottom right would have to be one piece. That's how some other games operate. But this game, no. You can, I could put this piece into this one. They can be all the same. So you can see here I'm running HP, and crit rate. I could run triple crit damage if I had a big beefy crit damage dealer and I just, you know, had, you know, crit buffs or passive crit rate bonuses or something like that. You can build very customized with these ones based on their main stat. Now, once again, these will also have the same substat system as the ones on the left. So the main priority for these ones is really getting your set bonuses, being your matrices like the brambles, the swift rush, etc., and then getting the main stat you want. Then if you get the right substats, that's fantastic on top, but in the early game, it's more about the set and the main stat and the rarity of them, and then substats follow later on once you start getting better gear. So that is the way they work. And that's pretty much everything to do with these guys. Now, as I mentioned, we do have those extra unique ones that you can get. So if we go over into the module drop farming here, say Doki Doki, once you get to level 50, you will unlock Inferno. And you can see Inferno is where you start dropping these unique sets like Swift Raid, like Coloss Guard. Is that what this one is? Evil Guard. This is Evil Guard. Yeah, so you can start getting these ones to drop. Now, these ones can only drop as pieces on the right-hand side. They're never going to drop as pieces from that left-hand side. So just keep that in mind. So you will do, if you want to make a set of those ones, you'll need to get one of the pieces that drops for this side with your right main stat and place it. And then you'll have to get a shell with it, with that same set in this final slot. So that is the way those sets work. But that is everything to do with your modules. Now we jump over and talk about the shells. Now the shells have a fair few things tied into them. One, they have their matrix effects. Two, they have basic attributes that grow as you level them up. Three, they have a effect tied into them, a skill if you will. And then four, they have passive effects that give you different stat bonuses and effects in battle. So let's go through each one. As I mentioned earlier, these guys can have up to 3 different matrix effects. I'll quickly jump over to the farming to show you guys. So if we go into the shell farming section over here, which is the Grim Pursuit, we can come over here and we can look at the Inferno mode. Once again, this unlocks at level 50. But when we get to the Inferno mode, you can see that these guys start having this extra little, these extra 2 effects that they have the ability to roll. Now you can go through into the archive, or you can go through here and see what possible sets or matrix effects can these guys drop. So you can see White Fang here, he's got like the red ones are often attacking ones, and then the blue ones are often speed based or support based. So you can see he's really got a lot of the attacking ones because he has an attack based effect. If we go to something like Alicorn, Alicorn's got more of the speed and support ones. Now you can see that this Alicorn, which is your first drop for clearing, it doesn't have those bonus effects. But if you go over here and you get a regular drop, you can see now it has these 2 extra matrix effects that can drop. So you've got to be farming from Inferno mode to get those extra ones. Otherwise, the drops in Hell mode, as you can see, do not have those extra matrix effects. But once again, if you are looking to try and make specific set bonuses for your character, make sure that the shell you're farming can actually drop those set bonuses so that you will actually be able to make those sets. So that is a very important thing. But once again, those extra ones only come from farming Inferno modes, which unlocks at level 50. Now, if we bounce back over and take a look at the shells, the next thing is going to be the skill that they have. If we go over here, this is a mythic one, and mythic shells, you can see, start having like bigger effects tied to them, and they also get bigger passive effects. Now, once again, you can see that this one, I just haven't been lucky on farming it. So it's only got a 1 bramble. But the cool thing about these guys is if you get and I would recommend not leveling up, not going too heavy investment into too many below mythic level. Now, there is the exception. I do think the shark is a great one. The black flag, if you're having trouble, this thing is a great thing to put onto all your supports for the speed buff. Really, really nice in general. But the thing with the mythics, even if you start leveling a mythic with bad matrix effects, you can actually imprint onto another one. So I'll go ahead and do this as an example. Let's see if I've got one that I can do. Okay, I'm not sure if I have one, but if I wanted to put these stats, you can see that this one's all leveled up. I can go ahead and replace this with another one, and it has to be of the same name. That's why, leveling up mythics ain't bad because they are the end game, but doing this with a bunch of these ones isn't as strong. So you can see this one here, it's level 1, but it has the 3 Swift Rush, 3 Bramble. So I'm just going to equip that to my character. Now what I can do with it is I can imprint. So now I grab that one that was leveled up over here. It's leveled up, so it's got the stats, it's got these extra passive effects, and I can imprint that onto this one. And now this one has those same levels. If we go back to upgrade, it's the same level as it was. It's got the same passive effects, but now it has the Swift Rush and Bramble at 3. So once again, that is why Mythic level is where you really want to focus on, because as I mentioned, once you get into Inferno, you will be getting that extra stat on the mythic ones, so you can level up some of these mythics that don't have that third matrix effect, and then later on you can imprint it onto them so it hasn't been wasted investment. So that is the way all that works. Now, as I mentioned, they all have a different effect. You can see this one before the owner takes action. If the owner has any debuffs, dispel 2 debuffs, increase their effect resistance, yada, yada, yada. So I'm not going to go through, this is not the video going through every shell and which ones are worth it, but just note that they all have different effects. You can read them, and I will have another video going through shells and shells worth investing into. Now, the next thing we have is their basic attributes. Now, these basic attributes are really simple. As you level them up, these are going to go up. As you can see, this guy's got 35 speed, which is nice. If I empower him again and upgrade him, oh, I can't do it, sorry. If I get one that has that third substat and imprint it onto him, he will actually go up to a 40 speed. So at max, mythic shells can have 40 speed on their general stats, and then they're going to have differing stats depending on what kind of shell they are. Now then, the final thing that they have is these passive effects. Now at first ascension, you'll unlock the first one, second ascension, the second one, and third ascension, you unlock the third one. Now these passive effects have different possibilities depending on which slot they are. The first slot is going to be attack, defense, or HP, whether it be percentage or flat. In general, if you're a HP scaler, you want HP percent as your top priority, HP is your second priority. If you're a defense scaler, you want defense percent as your top priority, flat defense as your second priority, and you guessed it, if you're an attack scaler, you want attack percent followed by attack as your second option. Now, these roles also have different rarities. So if you can see here, you can get up to mythic rarity. Now, just note the max rarity that you can unlock on these things depends on the rarity of the shell. Once again, that is why mythic ones are going to be the end game, and they are the ones that I recommend actually investing into. Now, over here, we have the middle slot, which is going to give you some different ones. Speed is going to be like the highly sought after one. As you can see, mythic speed, you can get anywhere from 16 to 20. Once again, that is going to be a very important one. You can also get crit damage and some other basic stats as well, accuracy, resistance, so on and so forth. Then we have the final slot. Now, the final slot is going to be, different passive base. So we've got just general damage. So you can get damage, splashable damage up to 8%. That's a good universal one for a damage dealer. But then we also have your elemental damage, which goes up by up to 12%, which obviously you get more damage increase, but it's not as splashable on as many units. So then we've got other things that give you accuracy, resistance, a lot of different effects. You can get damage taken reduced. There's all those different things you can get, but that is what the third slot has. Now, when you ascend these guys, they will just unlock one of these randomly, but you can re-roll them. Unfortunately, it's not guaranteed, but as you can see here, this guy, I don't really want to reroll any of these ones because it's really nice. The big thing you start looking for is speed over here. You can see I'm only down to 16 and it requires 12 of these chips. So it's quite expensive to do, and you do start running out very quick, but I'm just going to show you guys that you can reconfigure. You can press that. It gives you a different random effect, and you can choose to overwrite, meaning keep the new one, or abandon, meaning keep the old one. So you can reroll, and once again, in the end game, there will be a lot of rerolling, trying to get, obviously, you know, your plus 20 speeds, 17 is pretty decent, you know, and trying to get the good effects that you want on your absolute end game mythic, your mythic shells. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this a lot on the lower tiers. There's some exceptions, but that's a whole topic for another video. But in general, try and save all these reconfiguration chips for your mythics when you're trying to get your end game gears set up. So that is pretty much everything. Once again, I just want to reiterate that the modules, their sell price, you only get refunded about 40% of what you spend, whereas the shells is closer to 70. So you don't want to be wasting too many resources upgrading crap pieces of gear, but at the same time, you may need to just sometimes upgrade some to help yourself continue progressing through the game. But that is everything to do with the gearing system. Once again, the three core pieces are your matrix effects, which are your set bonuses, your modules, which is your standard gearing system, and your shell, which is kind of representative of weapons in other games. If you have any questions, please let me know. I tried recording this video so many times. It's just like so complex to try and explain it. So hopefully that made some sense, and I will be streaming at launch. So if you have any questions at launch, you can come join by stream. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.